Hello there, welcome to my channel MWA Tech. This is my first video in this channel, so I'm a little nervous and excited at the same time. I don't know what to expect. So I'm going to be making a snake game in Java, and I'm going to try and make this as, how do I put this, as the most basic, should I say the most easiest way to make a game in Java. So I'll be making projects in this channel. I thought, why not start off with simple games? So this is the game we're going to make. This is the finished product. This is a more advanced looking snake game, should I say. I don't know how old you are, but back in my days when I was young, before the Android operating systems, before the Java mobile operating systems, we used to have these Nokia 3310s, these older phones. We used to enjoy playing these snake games, and I remember playing a game like this once. So every single time I think about this game, I just try to remake it out of honor, something like that. So yes, this is the game we're going to make. It's a typical snake game. I'm not going to overcomplicate things. I'm not going to use any technical terms. I'm going to keep things as simple and basic. So yeah, the game, as you can see, has obstacles spawning around it to make it more challenging. And as well, as you can see, the speed of the snake increases as it grows. So we're going to make all these features in this game in Java. So if you don't know Java, that's fine. If you know a little bit of Java, if you are new, I think you're going to find this very interesting, because I'm not going to be teaching Java. I'm not going to be teaching how to code. I think there are so many places you can go. This is just for those people who want to make, I guess, fun projects. And so yeah, subscribe, um, and let's continue. Okay, let's go to file and create a new project. Let's make a Java project. So this is our package. All the classes we make need to be in line with this package, so we can access things from the outside, like variables and functions, and also the class too. So we're going to need 4 classes. We're going to have an object class. An object class it's anything that has to do with the characters in the game of the snake. Anything that's part of the snake game is an object. The food is an object, the snake itself is an object, the snake tail as well is an object, and the obstacles as well. And we're also going to have to create a game loop. The game loop is what loops the game, continuously creates new animations and everything. And we're also going to need the game class, which is going to be more of the logic part of the game, where we'll be making the window of our game and everything. So let's start off by creating the object class. Now this object class will contain all the properties of any single object, maybe the food or the snake, and it will have coordinates and width and height of those coordinates as well. Now we are going to declare some variables for an object. We are going to declare the object should have an x and y coordinate of where it's going to start in the grid of our snake world, should I say. This is how our grid will be. It will be a box. This is how our screen usually is in any computer. Now every screen has pixels. Now let me just make these pixels. Let me draw pixels. Now these dots you see here, just think of them as pixels. Little small dots you can't see, but they're very tiny in a computer. But when you see them being drawn in any computer screen or even a TV, they look so smooth. Lines are smooth because the dots are too small, and that's kind of how animations work. So what we're doing here is we're creating, like for example, this width is 80 by 80, meaning 80 pixels wide. So in our snake game, what we're going to do is we're going to make a grid out of all these pixels. We're going to divide every width and every height by 10 to make a square. Now, each and every entity in this game, maybe the food or the snake or anything, it will take a square part of a single, like let's say for example, the head of a snake, right? When we want it to appear in the screen, we give it a coordinate of X and Y. Let's say we want it to appear 20 by 10, 20 pixels and 10 pixels. It will appear right here. This will be where to start, and we're going to tell it that we want it to have a width of 10 pixels wide, meaning if it starts by 20 to 10, it's going to have extra pixels that's going to cover an extra 10 pixels. So these dots over here I'm drawing are pixels. It's going to cover 10, and the height as well, it's going to cover 10. This is the width and height of an object. Now all these pixels inside this square are going to be all yellow in color. So the snake head is going to appear as a box in this case of a whole yellow box, and the tail, the same thing goes on with the tail. We're going to give the tail a red color. So when we say the tail should appear 20 by 20, 20x and 20y, it's going to appear here, right? And as well, it's going to also cover a width of 10 pixels and a height of 10 pixels, and the snake tail will also be red by color. So this, let's just make 2 tails. Okay, so this is the snake. Now this is the head of the snake. Now when the head of the snake wants to move, let's say if we want to move the head of the snake in a different coordinate, all we have to do is to just make it jump to the next block. Let's say if we wanted to go 30 by 10, it means that the head will start right here, and as well it will occupy 10 pixels, and this will be the new position of the snake head. And because we're making the snake to be one entity, the tail as well will be part of the snake. Let's say we also want the tail to move. If we move the head, means the tail will also have to move. But when we move the head to the left, the tail may also move to the left. But that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to try and do is, we're going to, in our object class, we're going to add a previous X and previous Y. What it does is it makes the following tails of the snake follow the last position that its predecessor had. Like in this case, the head was in this position, then it moved to this position. So what the next tail is going to do is it's going to follow the last position which it was once in, and this is where it's going to be. The tail will occupy this area, and the new head will occupy this area. So this is what we're going to do with the object class. We can use the object class for a snake and also the food as well, and obstacles on the way, because they're just going to be boxes. So that's how I'm explaining. I hope you've got it. So let's create the starting position, and we're also going to create the width. We're going to create the X and Y of an object, which is going to be the position of it, and we're also going to create the width and height, which are the pixels wide, like I showed you. And we're also going to create the previous X and previous Y coordinates. So I'm going to fast forward this. Right, so what we did here is we created a constructor for the object class, and we also created another constructor. Now this constructor, the first one doesn't take any arguments. The second one takes 2 parameters as its arguments, and we assign it to the global variables of this class. Now these classes are private, right? They're private to the class, and the objects are public, meaning that we can only access these global variables through object classes. And this is how we are going to use the object. So we can set the x and y coordinate position of the object. We can also set the previous y, x, and y position of the object. We can get the width. We don't So we can set the width if we want to, but we don't really need to, because we have already set it, we've given it a fixed width. But in case we want to set the width manually, we can use these functions. But yeah, like they're just setters and getters. All they do is they get and set variables for these objects. Now we need to create another class. This class will be known as the game class. Now in the game class, this is where we're going to create our screen, right? The box, the surface of our game, of our snake game world, the grid of this is what we're going to create right here. This grid of squares is going to be the world of our snake game. So we're going to create it in the game class. This game class will also be responsible for the logic of the game and everything, as you know, repainting the game as well and creating the motion. So this is where the game loop will be responsible for creating the motions, but updating all the different motions will be in this class right here. So we're going to create, let's name it game. Let's import some packages to use. Now this game class will extend a class called the JPanel. This will give us access to a box or a grid, should I say, of our game. We're going to create a constructor. First, we're going to have to just initialize some variables. We're going to have to initialize the width and height of our screen. We're going to, of our surface or our screen, we're going to use surface and screen interchangeably. They are the same thing. We're also going to initialize our head of the snake, because that's what we're going to use to move around. The tail will just follow us. And we're also going to declare the food as well, and also the array of the snake itself, because an object is a single entity. But what we're going to do is we're going to take an array and put all those objects in one group so that it can represent one big snake. So a whole snake, I mean. So let's type that. We're going to give it 500 by 500 pixels wide, the screen width and the screen height. So we're going to create a constructor for this game, and we're going to initialize the snake body, the, the head X and head Y, and also the food. So the food will be in the middle of the screen. So the food is going to appear in the middle because, well, the screen width and screen height are 500 by 500. If you divide them by 2, it gives you 250 both for the food X and food Y. So it will appear in the middle. We're going to do something. We're going to create the head. We're going to need to initialize the head X and head Y here. We're going to set it to some variables. And we're also going to create the snake body. We also need to add the tail, the amount of the starting point of the snake. So we're just going to start with 1 for now. So let's declare first the tail. So what we're going to do is, well, what's happening is I'm using a starting variable as 20 because what we're going to do is we're going to take this starting variable and always increment it by 1 because for now it won't be useful because we're just starting with 1 tail, but if you start with about 10 tails, then it will make more sense. But just bear with me. So we're going to create an object class. Now this object will be one entity in a snake because we're starting with 0, because this is an for loop. It starts at 0, then it ends by 1 and it increments by 1. So it's only going to be 1 here. So all we're doing is we're initializing the head right now. If you look at our object class here, we had created two constructors. One did not take any arguments and the other one took 2 parameters. So we're going to use this to assign it to our global variables of our class here. So we're going to put this first variable X as start. And what we're going to do is we're going to always increment start by 10. Before we do that, we need to, and I also forgot one important thing. We're supposed to initialize this snake body with a maximum amount of available objects because it's an array. An array takes fixed amounts. Going to make it have 100. We're going to initialize, we're going to put the first, oh no, we're going to use I, because it will get any index that it's matching with. So we're done initializing the snake body here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. No, we're actually going to override a function called the paint component. Now what this function does, let me just type this. So we are getting this graphics object in this class. So because we haven't yet imported it, we need to import it. That's why it's giving us this error. Just click this icon over here and you see add import. Then you add it. Create a superclass. Dot paint. Component. So now this graphics object will be used to draw our snake in our grid. What it does is it grabs a handle to the, should I say, the graphics object, and it what it does essentially, it takes the pixels for us and draws it in the screen. We tell it what color we want the pixels to be and we draw it in the screen. But because now we just have our snake, for now we're just going to draw our snake in the screen first. Before, let's just set the our screen to be the color black, so it looks like a screen. Going to give it the black color. We're also going to give the color of the paint of the graphics object that we want to, because we're going to have different objects in our screen. We're going to have the snake, the food, and other parts of this game, and we want them to have different colors to know which one is which. So because now we're starting first by painting the snake, so we're going to give it a color of yellow. For the head, we're going to give it the color of yellow. So let's do that. So what's happening here is we're looping through the snake. So if we're looping at the first index, which is the head, the color of the head needs to be yellow. And else if it's greater than 0, then it's just the tail, meaning it's red. So that's what we're doing here. Now what we have to do is we have to make sure that this game we can launch it. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our snake game here, and we're going to start creating. First, this has to extend the JFrame. We're going to import these packets, the swing packet like before in the other class. So what we're creating is a frame. The frame will be like the window of our game, because the window is just, it's like any, it's just the window. This is what we're creating, and in that window it will host our J panel. The J panel is what we created in the game class, which has our screen, our surface and everything. Now this, what we're doing is we're creating a window to display that surface on. Let's first create a variable for our game class, so we can grab the class and use it in this class. Okay, so this is our screen, or should I say our frame. So if we run this, everything should work fine. Let me just save. Hopefully we'll see a yellow box. Oh, I forgot to call it in the main function. I'm sorry. Okay, just received an error. Let me see what this is all about. So I made a mistake. Instead of super.paint, it should be super.paint component. Fix that error. Save it and try again. Okay, so as you can see, we have a yellow dot, a yellow box here. As I explained in this grid over here, what we're doing is we made it 20 by 20, the X and Y positioning, and we took 10 pixels width and 10 pixels height, and it just, we gave it the color yellow, and it fills up like a box. So this is what's going on right now. And we have to make this move. So we need to add controls now.